And the thing I want to point out here is the reason why I'm so optimistic at this point about what the Twins could do, about what the Twins could do this offseason, what they want to do, what they end up doing. This front office really plays things pretty close to the vest and doesn't really telegraph a lot of their moves. So I think a lot is on the table. And, there's always, I want to mention the payroll, and we'll get into that a bit. But the big number I want to show here is that the Twins only have an estimated amount of $91 million in the books right now. So they really, if you expect them to spend like they did last year, they'd have $30 million to spend still. Or $30 million to, like kind of we talked about with that trade idea that I threw out, to acquire, maybe be able to take on some salary from some other teams. They have that wiggle room potentially. Now, do we know if they're going to have that level of payroll again this year? Maybe not. Maybe not. That's hard to say. But that's pretty much the range that they've been in for a few years now. And you can do a lot with $30 million. So that is an optimistic point if you're looking for Twins optimism. Even if they decide to scale things back, I wouldn't expect them to add from last year, just to be honest, for a lot of reasons. Maybe I'm not saying they won't. Again, I don't know. They've really not made any comments about that, and it's probably not in their best interest to do so. But the worst I could see is them only adding $20 million more to this payroll. And that you can do a lot with that. Unfortunately, they have a lot of holes to fill, but that is a lot of wiggle room. And I don't talk a lot about payroll on this channel. I think that's kind of maybe another interesting thing that's going to come out of these live streams. We'll get into some more topics that I don't really gravitate toward a lot. It's important for analyzing things too, because it's the reality of the situation. The team has a budget. The team is going to have a payroll. So much of the talk about the Twins payroll is around cheap poll ads, or they should spend more or whatever. I just don't like to get into that. I would love for them to spend more. Sounds good to me. Sign me up for a higher payroll. But I just don't think those are especially fun or productive conversations. It's kind of tired to me, to be honest. Not to say that, if anybody out there feels like frustrated that the Twins don't spend more, I think that's completely valid. I'm just not really interested in expanding a lot of energy over that. And I think too, it may have something to do with the time period in which I started following the Twins, which was in sort of 1999, but mainly 2000 and then 2001, during the contraction era, when the Twins literally had the lowest payroll, or, one of the bottom 3 payrolls in baseball. So for me to kind of have that have been sort of something that I was just used to, now to have the team come up and be more of a mid-tier, I think they were 16th last year, in the teens. It's not as, I guess I'm a little bit more easy to appease, than some people, because I know where it's been before. And that's not to say like they can't afford to spend more. They can afford to spend more if they wanted to. They could go higher if they wanted to. We all see how much, the poll ad family's worth and things like that. They could spend more if they wanted to. And, back then when I started watching the team, that was in the Metrodome era. And, that sort of hurt their odds of making more revenue, or at least, that's what the owners will tell you. So yeah, I'm not trying to, say if you want the Twins to spend more money, you're wrong. That's why I don't spend a whole lot of time talking about that part. But again, we need to talk about it, because that's so key to breaking down what we can expect them to fit. And I just see that a lot, that, when you throw out like Carlos Rodon, and I talk about him potentially getting a 1-year, $25 million deal, people say, well, the Twins are never going to do that. They could. I mean, again, they have $30 million. They would only have, of our projected budget, if we want to say that, they'd only have $5 million left to do everything else they need to do. But they could. And again, that same kind of conversation works for Trevor Story. And he would definitely require a multi-year deal. Carlos Rodon might be available at 1 year. We don't know that. Not sure yet. We'll see. But Trevor Story, he's definitely going to get a multi-year deal. So it's not like we're only talking about adding 1 year of salary, but he's probably going to get somewhere in like the $23 million annual average value range, something probably kind of along the lines of Josh Donaldson. The Twins could fit that. they'd only have, probably less than $10 million to address the rest of the pitching staff. So, if you think about it that way, it's kind of challenging to see how they would make this a more functional team potentially. But that's kind of the point I wanted to make with the payroll, is that just creates so many opportunities for the Twins to do things. And yes, the free agent market has been really thinned out. Absolutely, no doubt about it. I'm disappointed that they didn't do more than just grab Dylan Bundy before the lockout. But that doesn't mean that they're going to be that inactive after the lockout. That doesn't mean that they're not going to go out and make some big trades and take on some guys that have some salary. So